Hello, everybody. We're going to dive in today and just get started so we can get to as many questions as we can. We're near a train. Maybe we're in Laramie. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be setting up shipping options on your Shop Wyoming page with Gavacia and Moreno, and we're going to have plenty of time for questions so we can take care of all of the specific questions you might have about Shop Wyoming. The Shop Wyoming project is set up by the Wyoming SBDC network through the CARES Act recovery program. And the Shop Wyoming manager is Audrey Jansen, who's on the line today. She's here. She answers all of your great questions whenever you need it. So I want to pass it over to Gavacia so we can get started with her presentation and make sure we have time for questions.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm really excited to be here today in support of you all. So let me share my screen. I have a very kind of minimal presentation on just shipping in general, just to give everyone kind of like a foundation on what's available in the Shop Wyoming platform, and then how that relates to how you are pricing your shipping and all that, and your pickup and all that fun stuff. So today's agenda, we're going to go over those shipping options available in Shop Wyoming. We're going to talk about pricing your shipments, and then we'll go into a Q&A to answer all your questions. So the shipping options that are available on the Shop Wyoming platform are flat rate, free shipping, local pickup, and per product. And flat rate, free shipping, and local pickup are kind of options that you can set up globally that apply to all your products. But in addition to that, if there's a specific product that maybe doesn't fit into any of these categories, you can add the per product shipping option, which is a really nice feature that they provide. So the big question is, how do you choose? Like, what are the shipping options that are right for your store? So I have here a couple of scenarios that will tell you a little bit about whether you may want to try this option in one way or another. So the first scenario is, for example, if you sell luxury items that your average sale is in the hundreds of dollars range, your customer is probably going to be expecting free shipping on those items. And that obviously doesn't apply to things like art or furniture, unless you have your shipping, I guess, pricing kind of included in the total price of those items. But those are kind of understood that they need to be handled separately, especially furniture. You will need freight and things like that. Second scenario, if you have a storefront and spend a lot of time there, enabling your local pickup is going to be a great choice. So I think if you have a storefront, you spend time there, definitely use local pickup. And with that, you can charge a fee or leave it as a free option. That probably will depend on your cost of shipping materials, right? If you are setting it up as if you were going to ship the package versus if you're going to throw it in a bag as if they were shopping in store with you. So those are just things to consider in that scenario. Free shipping is a great incentive for raising your average transaction value. And you can choose what that average is and then use it as kind of like your limit for free shipping, right? So you've probably seen in a lot of places that people say free shipping in orders over $50, free shipping on orders over $100. So that's a way that you can incentivize people to, maybe if all your items cost $30, if you create a free shipping after 100, then you have people buying. Maybe your people normally buy 3 things and it's a $90 total. And this way you're making them purchase more inventory at little extra cost to you with the shipping. So it kind of serves as an incentive for your customer, but you also get to move more inventory more quickly, which I always say, at the end of the day, if you're not making the full markup on your product, but you're moving your product fast enough, you have more chances of selling more things, bringing more exciting new opportunities for your customers, keeping them interested in coming back to see what's coming up next, and you don't have something getting dusty on a shelf or a warehouse. So that's a really great way to also get rid of more inventory. And for the final scenario, just with flat rate shipping, I think that works really well for stores that have very similar items where everything is kind of priced the same, the sizing is the same. I'm thinking like maybe you just sell greeting cards. Well, that would make your life super easy, right? If you sell only paper goods like greeting cards, stickers, scrapbooking materials, just things that are all similar. That's a really good option. And you also have to remember that with flat rate shipping, you can also set up different flat rates. So if you have different products that, categories where like some categories are heavier or bulkier than others, you can set up a flat rate for those. You can also set up flat rates depending on the cost of the total order and things like that. So we'll get into some of those details next. Okay, so the case for free shipping, I wanted to spend a little time on this just to give everyone more of a perspective of how they can utilize free shipping and why it's a great asset to use. So the first one I already talked about before is using it as an incentive for a higher average transaction value. And that's your, free shipping on orders over $100 or free shipping over $50, whatever that means to your store. Also offering it when your sales margins are high. So if you sell a product that your cost is very minimal, but the retail value is like 200% that, you can probably accommodate having offering free shipping. And in that regard, you'll be eating the shipping cost, but it actually serves for a greater good because you have your customer returning knowing that they don't have to worry about shipping costs. Some people include shipping in their product pricing. So what that means is that you calculate how much shipping is going to cost for, I don't know, say candles, and you price your candles including that shipping cost. Now, this is easier to do if you have a proprietary product. That means a product that is unique to you. So like if you are hand making your candles and selling them, you can probably include the shipping and handling price in it. But if it's a product that you have a couple of competitors in your area or even online, then it's probably not going to work out really well, because if I see that your candle is $10 plus shipping and elsewhere is $10 with free shipping, or if your candle, or if you are selling your candle with at $20 because that includes the shipping, and somewhere else is $10, then, and the shipping is $5, then that's probably not going to work, right? Because people are going to recognize that that's not the retail value of your product. Another case for free shipping is if your competitor offers it, you'll have to at least consider it. Obviously, I would say if your competitor is offering free shipping on an item where you would be losing money due to the free shipping, definitely don't pursue it. But if your competitor has managed to sort that out, it's good to take a look and consider how that would look for you, why you should do it, why you shouldn't do it. But definitely you want to stay competitive and you need to be aware of what's going on in your market. The last little note is more about reminding yourself that you shouldn't lose money on shipping. So shipping requires your time. Your time is also part of the shipping cost. So I have worked with several folks that when they are setting up their products, they're like, well, I can afford the free shipping. But you have to understand, well, sure, maybe you can afford the free shipping, but can you also afford your free time, right? Your time is not free at the end of the day. If it takes you 20 minutes to put together an order, then that has to be included in that cost as well. If not in your product cost, then in your shipping cost. So it really depends on how you do your math, but please don't lose money over free shipping. It's not worth it that much. Now, what should your rates depend on? And this is kind of the bigger question that I'm assuming, especially first-time entrepreneurs are probably thinking like, well, I don't know how to do it. Like maybe you've looked at your competitor and you're like, wow, I don't understand how they can afford that. And of course, if your competitor is a big box store, we don't like, that's not really your competitor. If you're a small business with your first brick and mortar, 20 by 8 little shop, that's, your competitor is not going to be Walmart or any big box store like that. So you really have to look into your own arena of competition, like other businesses that are truly your competition, not that sell similar products. Because at the end of the day, as a consumer, when I go into a boutique, I know I'm not going to expect the same prices that I can get in a big store where they get competitive pricing just when they're buying bulk. But I know for a small shop, I know that works very differently. So I would, as an informed consumer, I would expect to pay more at a small local shop than I would at a big box store. And that's okay, because that's why I'm going to the local shop. I want to support local. And that you have to remember that when you continue to prove that value to your customer, they're going to come back even when you have maybe a little bit of a higher rate on shipping or things like that. So these are kind of the main costs and things that I would take into consideration if I'm figuring out my shipping rates. So the cost of shipping is a huge one. We just talked about it. If your shipping rate is higher than the cost of your product, we have a problem, because it's going to be very unlikely that people are going to have that product shipped to them if most of what they're going to pay is for the actual shipping. So that's something for you to think about. If you have a product like that, you might want to consider maybe creating bundles of that product that sell, or not offer shipping on that product because it doesn't make sense. And the likelihood that someone's going to want it is very slim. And also the likelihood that someone's going to want it and then get to the checkout and be like, I'm not going to pay $20 for a $10 item, $20 shipping on a $10 item. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to figure that out. Obviously, in your cost of shipping, you want to think about the actual shipping. So whether you have a relationship with UPS or FedEx or USPS, or if you're using Shippo, which is what the Shop Wyoming platform recommends, and they kind of handle discounted labels and things, and printing labels and things like that, then you have to kind of know, okay, my items cost this much to ship because I know this is the box that they fit in, and I know this is how much they weigh, and I'm just shipping to, say, Wyoming, so I know that's a flat rate or whatever. So you figure out that cost, you include how much time it takes you to pack, gather all the items in the order, pack it, and print your label and get it out the door. Or if you're dropping them off, you have to consider all those things into the cost of your shipping. So that's also, moving into the cost of labor. So your time is not free. Make sure you calculate your costs on your shipping process, because it definitely it's worth it. And then your competition. So avoid returns and non-returning clients by staying on top of what your competitor's shipping pricing is. So if you realize, oh, my competitor is doing bundles of $60 for free shipping, that probably makes sense to me. Think about, do the math and see how that relates to your particular situation. Now, Shop Wyoming has this really cool feature that they call the rate codes. So if you've tried to set up a flat rate in there, you probably thought, okay, flat rate $10 or flat rate $8. Well, you can take it up a notch with these codes. I'm not going to go into detail in all of them right now, but maybe during the Q&A, if you want to see some examples, we can play with them. And there is a really cool section on your dashboard in Shop Wyoming that's called the knowledge base. And if you go into the shipping section, they have a really great video that like breaks these down and how to use them. So an example is, instead of entering $10 on the flat rate, you can do what's on this first bullet point where it says 5 plus parentheses, and that 1 star quantity means that for every other quantity of the item, they will add $1 to the flat rate. So the flat rate is $5 plus $1 more for every other item. What that would mean is if I'm buying 1 candle, my shipping rate is going to be $5. If I'm buying 2 candles, my shipping rate is going to be $6. If I'm buying 3 candles, my shipping rate is going to be $7. So that's a cool way to do it. And then there are other codes that get a little more specific. So for example, the second bullet point here says 5 plus fee percent 10. What that means is that the flat rate is $5 plus 10% of the cost or the price of that product. So for example, with my candles again, if my candle is $15, then my shipping is going to be $5 plus 10% of 15, which is 1.5. So it's going to be $6.50 for my shipping in that regard. Now, the percentage, $10 may be a little steep depending on the kind of products that you sell, but you can also do 5%, 3%, 2%, however you see fit. And this is cool because this is also an easy way for you to set up rates that perhaps take more into consideration your labor, and your quote unquote labor cost can be coming from that percentage of the product value, if that makes sense. So these are some of the codes that come in there. You can get really fancy with them. The ones at the bottom, for example, you'll see that there's the min fee and a max fee. So those are minimums and maximums that you can also set up with different rates. So that's where you would do something like, like maybe discounted shipping and things like that. And without much further, let's jump into the Q&A and see if there's anything that we can address. I also have my Shop Wyoming pulled up here, so we can go into doing some actual codes in there if you are interested. I'm curious to hear where everyone's questions are at.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's a great intro and great place to start for questions. Guys, feel free to stick those in the chat box or unmute and just ask as you need. So we've got a few more questions. So the first one is, how do I pick a mail carrier?
That's a good question. So the, I guess, most traditional way to go about that is figure out the majority of your products. What's the weight? What's the size? What's the kind of packaging box or envelope that you need? And then vet those with the business rates of the different carriers that are accessible to you. And obviously, you're probably going to want to go with the most economic option, but maybe you also want something else like, well, tracking is probably really important to you, insurance and things like that. So figure out who has the best overall offer for what you need.
Perfect. As far as estimating how much you should charge for shipping based on items, are there any tools for estimating the cost for certain weights or sizes?
Yes, and the tools are going to depend on your carrier. So it's important to know your carrier because there are different options within. So like I know with, for example, USPS, you can get as specific as, oh, I use a 5 by 10 by 5 box, and this is how much my items weigh. but there's also flat rate options, right? So up to a certain weight. So you have to figure out what you have and who you're working with. And that's pretty much how you will determine that. And they all have tools. So a lot of the times, for example, I've used UPS a lot, and UPS, I will pretty much say, this is how much it weighs, this is how much, this is how big the package is, and this is where it's going. So that's another thing that you also have to consider, where your things are going. And for the most part, you can get really good averages when you're quoting directly on your provider's website. Once you have a business account, they will make those tools available to you. And if they don't, you probably don't want to work with them.
That's good advice. Good vetting advice. So I guess on that topic, where would you order shipping materials from? Would you standardize sizes or get as many sizes as you can?
I highly recommend standardizing sizes because that's going to be cheaper for you, especially if you're ordering your shipping materials in bulk. I always recommend that you do, because it's kind of like a two-edged sword, because on the one end of my philosophy, I'm like, don't have things that you're not using in store, because you don't want to take up the space with that. But when it comes to shipping, your discounts in bulk materials can be very significant. And so if you order many different sizes, the likelihood is you're going to pay a lot more money, because you're going to have little bits of different sizes, versus if you can manage to standardize, then maybe you just have 2 sizes of boxes, and if I get an order for up to 6 candles, I can fit them in the little box. Or if I get more than 6, then I use the big box, or whatever that is. I think having 3 sizes is a good place to start. And I have personally, I think, only used 2 providers for shipping materials. One has been Uline, because Uline really has not just shipping materials, but about anything and everything you're going to need for your business, like from cleaning supplies to the office supplies. So it's a really cool one-stop shop. And they also have really fast deliveries. Depending on where you're located, and if they have a distribution center near you, they will sometimes even do like same day deliveries or next day deliveries, which is really cool. And then I've also used Echo and Close, and I've used them more for, in the later years for running businesses that are more environmentally conscious, and everything is recycled or recyclable, and provides those friendly options.
Perfect. That's great. Do you have any thoughts on insuring packages? Is that something you would offer within Shop Wyoming as an option, or as a just always option?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I actually don't know how you set up, if you can set up the insurance through Shop Wyoming, but if you use potentially something like Shippo, they probably offer insurance. If you're using UPS, I think automatically you can add the insurance when you're setting up your shipping label. I don't know about the other providers, but I'm assuming it's pretty standardized. You'll always have the option to insure. I will say, if you have the option to insure, do it. Even though sometimes there's no real way for you to recover the item that got lost, especially if you are like a handcrafts person and you're making one-of-a-kind pieces. Those pieces are, if they get lost or something happens, there's not really a way that they could really repay you for that, but they will. And that's going to upset a little bit of the, customer service management side of things, of something going wrong with a package. So for Shop Wyoming, I would say definitely try to do it. It's not going to hurt, and you can easily put it into the cost. A lot of the shipping providers already have it into the cost up to a certain amount for every package. So you just have to know what that amount is and make sure that it's in line with what you're shipping. And if it's not, then figure out how you can add more. If you are using other platforms where you sell, there are third-party apps, and you've probably seen these in your own shopping experiences online, where when you're checking out, they ask you, do you want to add insurance? And then pretty much the customer pays for their insurance. And at that point, those third parties manage all the customer service for the shipping, which is kind of nice as a business owner to have one listing on your plate. So that's also available out there. One that comes to mind, I think it's called Route, Route. And you can just look up Route Shipping, and they do that integration on your storefront. I don't know that will be available specifically for Shop Wyoming, but that's definitely a good question to bring up, Maureen, to the Shop Wyoming folks, of whether there's a possibility to put the insurance on the front end to the cost of the customer instead of the seller.
Yeah, that's a great note. We'll make sure we touch base with the Shop Wyoming folks about that one. So another question about materials. Do you think branded shipping materials are worth the investment?
If you are there, yes. But if you're starting, probably not. I will put that cost into creating beautiful, like conversion items, so freebies that you can send to them, like beautiful postcards. I mean, you're all based in Wyoming, where anywhere you can probably travel a little bit and take a beautiful photograph and turn that into a beautiful marketing material, with, like, a special thank you note on the back, or giving out free stickers. I feel like those are way better investments at early stages. For very established brands and businesses, where, and that I cannot define that for you, what that means, right? That's up to you to say, we are making $200,000 a year. I think we can get branded packaging material. That could, maybe that for you is when you're making 50 grand. I don't know what that means to you, but when you're ready, feel super established, and want to bring your branding to the next level, definitely having those branded shipping materials helps, not only because they also advertise you as the package is moving from hand to hand, right? Like, we have to think about this too. Sometimes it's like your shipping providers, your delivery drivers, like all those people are consumers too. So it's not going to hurt to have your brand, your logo, your website on a package that's going to be passing through many, many hands.
That's a good point. And we do have a longer webinar about these added value shipping options that Gabachio did last holiday season. So that's at wyomingsbdc.org/recording. So you can learn lots more about different great add-ons to enhance your shipping experience for your consumer. I've got one more question, and then I think we'd love to see where those formulas are. But before we get there, should I have a return policy for shipped orders? And if so, what should I make clear to customers about returning shipped items?
Oh, yes. You always want to have all these policies. And actually, something cool about Shop Wyoming is that they make you have the policies, right? Like, you cannot even add products unless you've added your policies. So I would say definitely your return time frame. So, if it's whether you want to start when you ship or when they receive the item, 30 days is pretty standard. I know with COVID, there's been a lot of, the carriers are delayed, packages are going slower than usual. I don't feel like that's happening anymore. But if you do feel like that's happening, and you want to protect your consumers and your customers and make them feel good, then maybe you can expand that into like a 40-day policy, 60-day, 90-day. That's really up to you. And depending on also the type of product that you sell. So I think definitely having the time frame that they can file a claim for a return is important. It's important to be clear about whether you'll pay for the return label or not. I know that a lot of companies just send return labels with every package just to avoid having to have additional labor if a return is claimed. And I think that's smart, but that can also be a lot of I guess undefined cost because you don't know who's going to use it or not. And it's they're probably you're not going to get charged until they use it. But so I think it's about understanding what are the most likely scenarios for you and figuring out how you want to mitigate them, and how you want your consumer to go about that process on their end. The easier that it is on their end, the more likely that they're going to come back and shop online. Shopping online is this big scary thing where even though a lot of us are used to it, not everyone is. And for a lot of people, especially ordering from a small maker, can make them a little nervous, right? Because they know if they order from the corporation that they'll have, or they think they'll have someone to help them out. It's not true of every corporation, but that's kind of like a cultural understanding. And when it comes to small shops, they may be a little more worried, like, am I really going to get it? Like, are people really like seeing the online store orders? Especially if you're not communicating with them, or if there's not a clear policy, like what we're talking about. So definitely think about, we just talked about the time frame that they have to file the return, the whether they will be covering the cost of you or you are. Definitely specify what are the terms of the return. So can they just return anything? Like, can they use it and send it back because they didn't like it? Or does it have to be in its original packaging? What are the reasons that you accept returns for? A lot of brands say it's only if it's an exchange, or it's only if the product hasn't been tried on or opened. And you can make those calls for your customer and for yourself. I think it's important. It's important for you to step in the shoes of your customer and think, well, what will make me want to return this? So potentially is if they had an expectation about the product that wasn't fulfilled, or if there's defects. A lot of people just say, factory defects is the only thing that we do returns from. And, that's the policy. And when they order from you, they are taking the risk because they are agreeing to your policy when they're shopping from you. And something that I think I've said this in the other shipping and fulfillment webinar as well, where I tell folks, it doesn't hurt to have your human language policy at the top of the lawyer language policy, because I know there's a lot of lingo that has to get introduced in there for legal purposes. But I'm always down when I go into a policy page and I see a couple of bullet points at the top that is just like, you have 30 days, you have to pay for the return. It has to have the original tags, like all those kinds of things are really, really helpful to know.
Perfect. That's super helpful. I think if you would just show us where to go to change our shipping formulas, that would be super helpful.
Yes, let's do that. So here's the back end of my Shop Wyoming. And first, I really want to show everyone where the knowledge base is. I'm naturally a curious person. So if you give me software, I'm going to click on everything, and I'm not afraid to mess it up. But I know that for a lot of folks, they are afraid of messing it up. So they'd rather not click on things, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm going to invite you all to click on knowledge base. Because there's a lot of cool and very useful stuff, like the onboarding checklist to make sure that you have everything you need to get started. You have a bunch of different things, and we're going to skip over to shipping. And this video is great. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. And then here are the quick shipping codes, and you get to watch the video. They tell you exactly how, but we're going to go over it right now as well. So I'm going to take this one as an example. And what's cool about this is pretty much you get to change these numbers, right? Like these numbers are just like for reference. So you don't have to use exactly these codes. They are codes because you get to also change them and adjust them to what works for you. So I'm copying this one and I'm going to go into my store settings and shipping. And so here's the zone that I have, which is the United States. I'm going to click on view to see what I have enabled. And when I click on it, I can see the types of shipping that I've enabled on my shop. I'm going to add this code to my flat rate. So I'm going to click on this little pencil. That's where the editing icon is. And you see the method title is flat rate and the cost is right now set to 15. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to paste the code. And I'm going to say, okay, yeah, my flat rate is 15. And then I also wanted to add a fee percent. I'm not going to do 30 because that's steep for my product, my very fictitious product. So I'm going to add a 2 for 2% plus $1 per quantity, per additional quantity. So this is the pretty much how my rate is going to be automatically calculated depending on the amount of product and the cost to consumer of those products. And you save and it's done. So it's really, really easy to do at the end of the day. If you know what you want, if you know what you want to charge, I highly recommend everyone come and play with those. Again, go to knowledge base. You have all the codes here, which I love how easy they've made it. And you have the video for reference as well. So you can play around with these. I think these are very powerful tools, powerful codes to learn, and they will give you the flexibility that you need, especially within something like the flat rate, which can be, like I said, very intimidating, being like, oh, one rate for all my products. That sounds really hard. And it is. So it's really cool that they've made this available to you. Any specific questions about this?
I don't think so. I don't see any in the chat box, and I think this is a great walkthrough of how to find those formulas and stick them into our specific stores. So I think that looks good. And I think that was our final question. This was super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. If any other questions come up, hit me up and we can probably continue the conversation one-on-one as well. If any of the attendees or watchers want to have more, I guess, personalized help.
Yes, of course. So Gabby is a free supplemental advisor through the SBDC. So in order to get in touch with her, you just need to let your regular regional business advisor know that you'd like to meet with Gabby. She can talk you through any of these shipping conundrums or shipping marketing ideas that you might have, or questions about anything related to shipping, marketing, all kinds of good things. You're an expert in a lot of things. So but thank you for being here today, and thank you for everyone for attending, and let us know if you have further questions. But until next time, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.